Well, good afternoon. I'm Jake Carpenter. I am the co-founder of Wheelhouse, and my slides should be up here in just a second. But I just wanted to thank you all for coming to watch me and let you know my pitch. I think my presentation is going to be a little different than what you've seen. I'm going to try to tell more of a story. While we're starting, I guess I'll just say, who here is happy with their job? Who here is happy doing what they're doing? Wow, that's a good number. You know, it's amazing how many people go through their life not happy doing what they're doing. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. In fact, for the 90,000 hours that you're going to spend working in your life, or the 45 years of your life where you do only one thing more than sleep, and that's work, people go through that whole time unhappy with what they do. In fact, according to some studies, 70% of people are unhappy with the job that they do. Why don't people change? Why do people stick in a job they don't like for so long? A lot of times, you know, it's a path of least resistance. Sure, you can go back to college, or you can take some night school, or you can read a book, or you can go back to the bottom of the ladder and add something new. But when you're already getting a steady paycheck, it's really hard to make that jump. Now, I'm going to tell a story. My stepdad, was a mechanic. For 50 years, he was a mechanic. He started out working on planes. You can see him rebuilding an engine back there. I don't think they'd let a 17-year-old kid do that anymore, but he was rebuilding an engine there and moved on to boats and race cars and everything. He could fix anything. And by the time I was in high school, we had a project where you have to interview a parent. I think a lot of people have that project. So I asked him, can I interview? And he said, sure. So the first question was, if you could be anything you wanted to be, what would you be? And at this time, as a mechanic, he owned a couple shops. He had people working for him. He was pretty successful. And I was sure he would say, a mechanic. And he said, I'd be a veterinarian, which was a surprise to me, right? So it shouldn't have been. We'd always had cats and dogs, and I can remember more than once in my life him getting up in the middle of the night to nurse some animal that he had found abandoned back to health. But naturally, the next question is, why didn't you? Why didn't you become a veterinarian? And he said, well, because I was a mechanic. When I went to get a job, that was what was available. And you don't just switch jobs like that. And besides, I never went to college, and I don't think I'd be any good at it. He was wrong, though. When he retired, he found out of a sick friend who needed some help, and so he enrolled in the university's one-semester personal care attendant program. So this 65-year-old guy who had never set foot in a college went back. And not only was he good at it, he was a top student, and he loved it. And I think he was probably more proud of that certificate than anything else that he had done. The thing about it is, while in his generation changing jobs may have not been something that we do, it is becoming more and more acceptable. We see companies that used to think, IBM, companies that used to think of jobs as a lifetime. You start when you're young and you leave when you're old with a gold watch. And they think about it now as a tour of duty, a few years where you come in, you grow yourself, you grow the company, and you move on. In just the most recent few years, that's gotten even shorter. There's some jobs that are only a few minutes long. When I came over here, I used Lyft. I got my phone out. I asked for a ride. They gave me a ride from here to there. And that was the extent of the job. We call it gig work. There's many of them. There's rides and chefs and deliveries and house cleaners and legal services. There's a ton of things, and there's going to be even more. In fact, in these industries here, you could see gig work, or I think the labor statistic term is contingent and alternative employment schemes, make up to 25% of the industry. That's huge, and it's only growing. What's next? And how is that going to affect Alaska? It is going to affect Alaska, but I think Alaska is uniquely poised to benefit from that. Alaska has had people in this state for millennia living off of the land and the ocean and evolving season to season, knowing where the animals go, knowing what happens to the weather and the seas. And the people that moved to the state to build what we know as the state of Alaska now have lived the same lives. We've had tourism and oil and hunting and fishing and trapping, and all the industries that built our state to what it is now have all been seasonal, have all been sometimes, in some cases, only a few weeks long. We're comfortable with that. In Juneau, where I grew up, it was not uncommon to talk to somebody and say, what do you do? And they said, well, I'm a deckhand and a taxi driver and a tour guide and a legislative aide. And that was their career, right? So what is normal in Alaska is new everywhere else, and that puts us in a really good position of power. 60,000 jobs that probably here, in the people in this room are most concerned about are jobs that we consider blue jobs or ocean jobs or the maritime workforce. And those 60,000 people, a majority of them are not year-round employees. And too large a chunk of them aren't even Alaskans, but that's a different problem. We have the seafood harvesting, seafood processing, research, education, and all the support industries in Alaska. And those people, when they're not working in one job, they're working in another job. How do they get the training that they need? How do they become the best employee? And how do they make sure that the next opportunity they have is the opportunity that they want to have, the opportunity that makes them feel fulfilled as a person? I think learning a new job should be accessible to anyone, right? We shouldn't be pigeonholed into the job that was available in our community when we grew up or the job that we walked into because we needed a paycheck. The way that we work is changing. Everybody in here is going to be affected by it. The way that we learn to work needs to change as well. I don't know, I'm a geek, so I'm going to talk about this movie, The Matrix. It came out in 1999, and it doesn't matter if you've seen it or not. There's a really cool scene when our heroes are running, and all hope seems lost, and they don't know what's going to happen, and they come across a helicopter, and one character says to the other character, "Can you fly that thing?" And she looks back at him and says, "No, not yet." And she grabs her phone out of her pocket, and she uploads into her brain the ability to fly a helicopter. And, they fly off, save the day, kill the bad guys. It's a great idea. We don't have the ability to upload knowledge into your brain just yet, but we're getting there. And the secret is a smartphone. Smartphones have amazing sensors in them, and they've been around for 10 years now, so we think that they're old, that we've figured out everything they can do. But as far as technologies go, it's still, we're still, if it was the internet, we're still in the AOL discs in your mailbox stage, right? We have no idea what they can do for us. And if you don't think somebody can learn something from a smartphone, just look at your Facebook and all the crazy ideas that your relatives post. People get some really deep ideas from smartphones. Well, and that's the portion of the talk where I'm going to talk about why I'm here and what I'm doing, and I'm trying to be quick, so sorry if I'm rushing. I'm building an app called Wheelhouse. Wheelhouse is the answer to all those questions I posed. We are a career vocational technical education app for the ocean industries, and more importantly, for the people that work on those industries. So we're not just saying we're covering topics about the ocean. Anything that somebody would need who works on our ocean, who makes their life in Alaska doing gig work or seasonal work, we're the resource for them. We use those sensors to create really cool virtual reality and augmented reality experiences. We use our technology to track the certifications and verify that it's actually a person learning, to basically tailor the experience to each person so they're getting what they need to do the job that they want to do. So whether you've been a deckhand your whole life or you're 17 and don't know what you want to do when you graduate, you can download our app and you can learn some skills that will get you the direction you need to go. And that's it. Thanks for watching. You can always track me down, and enjoy Accelerate Alaska.